Now this brings us to the Middle Byzantine, so we're post-iconoclasm, we're after 843, and this is known as the Renovation. We see a growing interest in images, but specifically images that are didactic. In other words, they're intended to teach, not to decorate. And the piece we're going to start with is actually a Theotokos, or a virgin and child enthroned, and this appears in the Hagia Sophia. Now, this probably replaced the original mosaic that was likely destroyed by iconoclasts. And this piece is about 16 feet tall, so it's actually quite a massive piece. It doesn't really come across in the images. And originally was accompanied by an inscription which read, "Pious emperors replaced what impostors had destroyed." Now let's look at the image. First of all, you'll notice when you look at Mary that the body is disproportionate to the hands and face. That's because we're seeing that sort of spiritual image where it's more a bulk of fabric that happens to have two hands and a face sticking out of it. The Christ child has also definitely become a homunculus. He's definitely much larger than a child that would normally be sitting on their mother's lap. It's as if by shrinking the head, the artist is trying to get across the idea of an infant child, but the body looks like a very small but perfectly formed adult. And there's a theological reason behind this, just to expand on that idea of a homunculus, which is that at the time, they believed that Jesus couldn't really have a childhood since he was the Son of God, and therefore he sprung forth almost fully formed. Now, it's not that he physically sprang forth fully formed, but emotionally, mentally, it's sort of getting to that idea. And it's not an unusual idea. I mean, we are in the Byzantine Empire looking at the Greek world. We have lots of Greek gods that will spring forth fully formed. Now, they're sitting on the throne of heaven. And we see from the cushions and the jewels on the throne and the gold color that this must be a heavenly form. The gold behind them, again, telling us that this is something spiritual, something divine that's happening. And when you look at the clothes, we're moving away from the Roman. We're moving towards more Hellenistic clothing, more what we saw in the sculptures of the Parthenon than anything we saw from the Romans. And that's because they're dressing more and more like the Greeks. Remember, the Byzantine are culturally Greek, even though they're almost 100% Christian. We're also seeing the development of a convention. We're going to see lots of images like this with the Virgin and Child seated in a very similar way, because these conventions develop and that model will stick around for a very long time. Really, this model will stick around all the way into the Renaissance.